You are listening to Shameless Stories. This is Nicola Humber, founder of the Unbound Press, publishing imprint for magical unbound women and proud sponsor of this podcast.
So, welcome to another episode of Shameless Stories, the podcast that uncovers the things that have kept us in shame and then it actually becomes the tool that empowers us into or propels us into the careers and the businesses that we're working in. And I'm also pleased to share that this is sponsored by the amazing Unbound Press, the Unbound publishing imprint for rebel women. I am very excited to introduce to you a fabulous client I've been working with. I just love spending time with you, Sandrine. We've been journeying together kind of 4 or 5 months now, and every time I speak to you, I learn something new about what I'm doing wrong with my nutrition. And not that there's any shame in that, but it's all about growing. So I'm gonna stop waffling and let you introduce yourself. Sandrine, please tell our listeners and viewers who you are and what you do.
Hello, and thank you for having me. My name is Sandrine Olmi, and I retrained as a nutritionist about 10 years ago. And I had a career in marketing and then had terrible digestive issues, all the lovely things that no one wants to talk about. But I do. So I retrained as a nutritionist essentially to heal my gut. That was my main goal. It was never my intention to practice as a nutritional therapist. But 2 years into the diploma, I thought, wow, this is incredible. Food can really help us heal if we allow it, if we do it properly. So I thought, okay, I can't keep this as a secret because it felt like this, but this big, big secret that no one talks about. You know, we tend to rely on medication when we're not well, right? We go to our GP and we're trying to get a quick fix. But actually, if you really try to understand how your body works, you can really help and do this naturally. So became a nutritional therapist officially, opened a clinic and focused on digestive health. And then as I was getting older, I then zoomed into hormone health. So I now help perimenopausal women. I love, love, love doing this because we can make such a big impact with nutrition. And then I adopted my daughter. And this was a massive challenge in itself. And we knew there was going to be lots of things coming our way. And she basically experienced anxiety, really severe anxiety. And so dived into brain health. So now I really work on these 3 areas: digestive health, hormone health, and anxiety. So that's me.
You could say they're all areas that people don't like talking about.
You're right. Yeah, but actually it makes such a difference when you start talking about it and start addressing those with nutrition.
So it's fascinating that I like working with you every time we talk about what's coming up for clients and even yourself as well, right? I think because as women moving through perimenopause with young children, I think the one thing that I've really noticed with kind of journeying with you is that it's really important for mums to feed themselves well, to energize themselves, because when we move into I know I'm always constantly complaining to you about feeling tired and knackered and oh my God, my kids, it's kind of that. And you know, you have it the other scale, I think, because Lucy doesn't sleep too well. You know, we're kind of we're that sandwich generation where we just need to find as much energy as we can. And we often go to the wrong things, don't we?
It's very easy to go to the wrong thing because it's usually what's in the cupboard, right? It's, you know, what can we grab that's going to give us that bit of energy? And I did it too, you know, it's not because I'm, you know, I've got a title that says nutritionist that I'm perfect, far from it. And when our daughter was little, because we adopted her and from one day to the next, we became parents with this little baby, it was such a shock. And yes, the sleep deprivation was huge and we had to feed her in the night and all these things. And yes, I did reach out for things. And then one day I thought, you know what, this is not sustainable. I can't just keep reaching out for a biscuit when I'm tired. I really need to feed my body properly. And the minute I started doing that, I felt so much better. So sometimes it's having that brain space to think about, okay, what's my next step? And when I think of, say, one of the last clients I've been working with, it's exactly that. She's a full-time, she has a full-time job. She has a daughter who's 3. she's retraining to be, in a completely new career. So she wants to do all these things, but she wasn't feeding herself. And she said, I'm running on empty. I need someone to show me how to feed myself. And we did that for a couple, 2, 3 months. And she's a new person just because she's using her time a little bit differently when she thinks about food. It's really amazing.
It's funny, isn't it? Because it's the most simple thing in the world, because we all have to eat, and but then it's kind of breaking the old habits that I find difficult. I mean, like the running on empty, really. I know that there'll be people listening that will probably be nodding along with you, going, yeah, I know exactly that. Coffee's my friend.
And you know what? Like you say, there's no shame in this, and no shame in saying, you know what, I actually need help here because it's becoming harder and harder. And in your 20s, you can do that, right? You can go to bed super late. You can get up in the morning, go to work, be productive, and carry on. In your 40s and 50s, it gets a little bit harder, and we need to face the reality that yes, it is, the body needs a bit more support, and it's okay to support our body. It's totally, totally okay. And that's what I love doing. Yeah.
I think I also love what you've told me in the past around, like, it's okay to have a little bit of what you love as well. So like, you're not one of these nutritionists that shames you into like cutting everything out of your like eating habits. That's what I think I love about you. It's like, oh, Sandrine says I can have a coffee, it's fine. But it's kind of like, I think it's like shining a light on that thing that often the doctor will tell you to cut it all out. And actually the issue that we often face as individuals is balance. We need balance, going without is like, feels like torture, doesn't it? I guess. But
it does, because when you tell your brain, don't have this, what do you think about? That thing that you're trying to avoid. This is how our brain works, right? If we focus on one thing, that's all we think about. So if you said to yourself, oh my gosh, there's a cake in the fridge and I can't have any. Of course, all day long, you're going to say to yourself, I can't have any. And then you're just going to give in and have a huge slab and then feel really guilty. When actually, if you said to yourself, yeah, lunchtime, as pudding, we're going to all have a little slice of cake, as part of a meal, it's your dessert. It's absolutely fine. I don't have an issue with that. If it's somebody's birthday, of course you should have a piece of cake. Why shouldn't you? Life's too short.
you can't see on camera, Sandrine is like, you can tell that you look after yourself. It's like, and I think that's the thing. It's like, I think the more it's about looking after yourself so you can be stronger, so you can be more energized. So it's not about losing weight, it's about being strong. For me, that's my mindset shift. I have to say, like in my 20s and 30s, it was always about looking a certain way, but now it's just about, being able to catch my kids when they run.
I've just turned 50, my daughter is 8, I need to keep going. I have no choice, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, right? I'm not the only one as what I call myself an older mum, but I feel great, because I look after myself. Absolutely. But I'm not, also the other things, I'm not obsessed with it either, In fact, I've started calling myself the relaxed nutritionist, because if we start stressing about food, it has such an impact. Like stress, creates health conditions. We really need to work on that as much as possible. So if we can relax around mealtime, relax around, our food choices, like you say, it is about becoming stronger. So you can make this decision and go, yep, today I'm going to have a piece of cake and I'm going to enjoy it. There will be zero guilt, and then the following day you just go back, to your normal eating habits and really think about, what does my body need today? Look at yourself in the mirror, like you would do with this whole, the whole mindset, work, like, what do I need today? Am I stressed about something? Do I need to eat something to give me energy? Do I need to eat something to help me relax? And so on. And then so nice when you get really in tune with your body.
Yeah. I totally agree with you on that one. It's like, I think as well, as we get older, we get more in tune and intuitive about what perhaps we need, and trying to unravel the old ways of like you say, grabbing a biscuit, or it's like breaking those habits. But I think what I love about your approach is that we can do it really gently. It's, you know, you can substitute that bread for this bread. You can, I mean, have you got any really easy tips and substitutes that you could recommend for like energizing? That would be really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing I suggest, like you said, you talked about bread. So if someone eats white bread, going for whole grain, yeah, your kids might not be happy about this, but actually you might be surprised and they might go with it. You never know. You don't know until you've tried, right? And these are little habits that the sooner you start, the sooner your kids can get used to it, basically. My daughter's never had white bread apart from when we buy a sandwich from the shop, which we do occasionally. I'm not saying she doesn't eat it at all. But yeah, so whole grain is a really good swap, even with pasta, because it just adds B vitamins in your diet, and B vitamins are absolutely crucial for energy. And then things like, if you have a jacket potato, for example, I really like a nice jacket potato with maybe tuna and sweet corn. Go for a sweet jacket potato, sweet potato instead of white, just for a change, just for a different profile of nutrition. It's about, having all these different plant food in your diet and just rotating, not having the same food all the time. These are really, really nice, easy swaps, that you can do. And when we talk about energy, protein is a big one, especially for women going through, hormonal changes. So just think about your favorite meal and kind of look at it and kind of go, what can I add today? Just add one thing. So is it a bit of protein? Is it a bit of healthy fat? Is it some more colors? That's just so easy, right? So it's just taking that time to kind of go, okay, today I'm eating a sandwich. What can I add? Today I'm eating a soup. Can I add maybe some pulses, some beans or some chickpeas in my soup? These are the kind of tips that I would share with clients. Super easy.
Super easy, and like not beyond the realms of possibility as well. So you've mentioned very briefly your daughter, and we've talked about our kids and how we get our kids to eat the right things, because again, that's another shame that is often reflected onto mothers, because they're feeding them Kit Kats and they've got an addiction to sugar and chocolate, and it's like, how do we start to put good habits into our kids early? So yeah, tell me a little bit about how you've helped your daughter, and because the nutrigenomics test is like, it's fascinating as well. So do tell me a bit about that.
Okay, so when our daughter was little, well, actually, when she turned 9 months, pretty much on the dot, she refused to be spoon-fed. So I thought, wowza, okay, this little one's got a very strong mind. It's going to be an interesting journey. For a nutritionist, you could just imagine what that's like. What do you mean you don't want to eat my lovely homemade purees that, my freezer is full of them? Oh, well, never mind. But I had to do some serious work on myself to accept the fact that she was refusing my food. It's hard.
I'm a nutritionist.
Hello. What do you mean this is not nice? So yeah, this is real. I really had to look at myself in the mirror and go, I have to let this go, because it's going to stress me out. And if I'm stressed, my daughter's going to be stressed, and this is not going to be very nice for anybody. So I had to let it go. And in fact, one way of going around it, I used to buy ready-made food for her, because half of it would end up on the floor anyway. So it'd be like, well, I didn't make it, the supermarket did. Honestly, that helped me so much, to kind of detach myself from it. And of course, being a nutritionist, I had to find ways, I had to be super clever. So I soon found out that she had a thing about textures. So if it was too hard, she didn't eat it. If it was too soft, she didn't eat it. It had to be just right. So one thing that she still loves is pancakes. So we started making fun pancakes with various ingredients in them, as many things I could cram in, basically. So the favorites are beetroot pancake, which is great. It's a vegetable. She kind of know, she does know it's in there, actually. She does know, but she's happy to eat it because it's sweet. She has another thing about, taste. She doesn't like anything bitter or, savory, really. So yeah, beetroot pancake is great. I do spinach one. We call them alien pancakes, because one day she was watching this alien cartoon and I went, I have a great idea. Let's make those green pancakes. And I had no hope. I mean, really, I had very little hope. And she ate them. And I thought, oh my goodness, I'm onto something here. That's what you need to do. It's just go with the flow. Try. Keep trying things, and you'll find their favorites. And that's what we've done. And then another favorite of hers is we call it hot chocolate smoothie. And the secret, and that one she still doesn't know, so I hope she's not going to listen to this podcast. Is frozen cauliflower.
Amazing.
It gives it a really nice texture. So I defrost it beforehand, but yeah, you just put it in there with a milk of your choice, some nut butter. I usually put banana in there, and I just load it up with nice seeds and, you know, healthy fat. And I mean, it's a meal. It's a meal basically. And when she's had a really stressful day, and she's just like a little lion that's just escaped from a cage, and I'm about to get eaten alive, and she's so much better after that. So these are the little tips that I've, you know, kind of developed as I, you know, went along. But I really would advise anybody who has young children is to start these things as early as possible, because then they become their favorites. And it's like, actually, my daughter asked for the hot chocolate smoothie. She asked for pancakes. It's like, sure, of course you can have those. And then
I need these recipes. I need that hot chocolate recipe. Like cauliflower in a smoothie. I would never have even thought of that. That's amazing.
It really works. It's delicious. Yeah, it's really, really nice. So, and then, you know, it's just relaxing around mealtime. It's, you know, she doesn't like sitting next to us when we eat. It really stresses her out to see our sauces and the smell of our garlic dressing and all of this. So yeah, she'll sit on the bar and then we'll sit at the table, and it's fine. It's not making a big deal. It's just respecting her needs, basically. Yeah. And I mean, only 2 days ago, she asked to try a leaf of salad when she just can't stand anything that's green. Where that came from, I have no idea. But because we're like relaxed and we made a game of it, and she didn't like it, but she tried it. Yeah, relaxing around food is just that first step. It's really key.
Yeah, because I think that's probably something I know that we got. You know, you can't leave the table until you finished your plate. That kind of that's how we were brought up. That's how our parents were brought up, because, you know, the food was not as plentiful as it is now. And I guess that's the thing, is like, it does kind of stick with you as you get older. Like, you must eat, I've cooked, you must eat. And there are days when I get so frustrated that I've spent ages cooking this new meal and none of you want to eat it. And it's like, what's the point? I'll eat it. So now what I do is, like, working with you, I've reframed. Like, I'm making a brunch. Does anyone want anything? Like, if I take, rather than I'm making brunch for everybody and then getting annoyed that no one eats it, I'm kind of reframing it that way. Like, even tiny little tweaks like that just help.
Brilliant. Like, and then another thing to, you know, you will know your kids' favorite foods. Okay. So, and I learned from somewhere, I can't remember where, but you know, you should always offer something they love, something they kind of go, not sure, and something new, or that you know they're not going to eat. But at least you put everything on the table, and it means that you are still eating the foods that you love. I think that's really important as parents, that, you know, I meet so many moms who are eating their children's food because they don't want to make 2 meals. I mean, who wants to make 2 meals? You know, but sometimes we have to, right? And by offering all these different options, you know, if I make a stir fry, you know, yes, my daughter will never eat anything in a sauce. So she'll have the chicken or the prawns, and then she'll have the noodles. But at least I'm just making, you know, in my head, I just have this one meal, and then I just deconstruct it for her, you know, and she'll have elements of it. And I think can make life so much easier, you know, to think that way.
Yeah, totally. It's all a learning curve as well with children, because I think that, like you say, like when you have children that so like my girls, they love to have snacks in front of the telly, and you know, they get carrots and cucumber and hummus and pita bread and tomato, and like they get the rainbow. They don't get actual, like, I don't give them crisps and stuff until they've had the rainbow. It's just like, I didn't realize I was doing quite well on that. But I also know that both of them, they bite their nails when they're nervous or when they're focusing on something. So now they're crunching on carrots, and actually that's helping with that situation. So I guess there's lots of things. It's like you say, it's making a game of it. It's trying to be playful and not get so stressed out about it, which is so easy to do as a mum. Because I think that part of our shame story as a mom, like if you're not feeding them correctly, or if they're not, you're not looking after them, or the worst one as well is like you're indulging their needs. I think that's an interesting one too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, when I meet families and I mention I'm a nutritionist, people get quite nervous around me. And I'm like, don't be nervous. I'm not here to judge. That's the first thing, right? That's the first thing. Really, a good nutritional therapist shouldn't be judging anybody. And it's understanding where you're at, because everybody will be at a different point in their journey. And some people will be completely overwhelmed and just want their kids to eat just anything, right? Just absolutely anything. And that's fine, but we can work on that and kind of, make sure that anything that becomes something maybe a little bit more, a little bit more nutritious with time. Yeah, it's especially with kids with, special needs, we have so many things to take into account. And so when I work with families who have same children, the first thing I want to do is get the parents to relax around their kids. Because then it's like, okay, we've removed one layer, what else shall we focus on? And, you briefly touch on nutrigenomics, which is this test that I do to actually help, understand what, a neurodivergent individual is potentially missing in terms of nutrients in their diet, because their genes are switched off. There's genes that we need to absorb nutrients, vitamins and minerals. And if those are switched off, then of course we're not going to absorb what we need, especially from food, but even from supplements. So they need special supplements, they need higher dosage, and it needs to be done very safely. So with family, it's kind of giving them hope that there's another way of looking at nutrition. It's not just about they need to eat more vegetables, they need to eat more carrots and cucumbers, and they need to eat less sugar, because that is hard to do. And I really get it. I really understand it. So it's like, oh, well, I know there's an investment, attached to this, but if you're able to do that, it opens doors in terms of how you can support your child. And with our daughter, it was life-changing, because by addressing her nutrient deficiencies, we improved her sleep and we've improved her mood because she was sleeping better. So her mood improved. And because she's happier, everybody in her house is happier. So the impact it has on the whole family is incredible. So, when it comes to nutrition, there's so many ways of looking at it and of tackling it, basically. Yes, it's all down to eating good food, of course, but there's also a different aspect to look at.
Yeah, I'd like to dive into that a little bit more, because the thing that you shared with me with it was around melatonin, wasn't it? Because with SEN children, often the go-to is melatonin. And is it correct me if I'm wrong, is it your daughter that she can't process that? It just didn't work.
That's right. Her gene that is needed to convert serotonin, our happy hormone, into melatonin. That's kind of how it happens in the body in terms of processes. So that gene for her is switched off. So I know that she needs a lot more serotonin, and she needs a lot more of all these other things that support the production of serotonin to actually make melatonin. But yes, we've had to go down the route of supplementing with melatonin with the doctor's advice. But I know that she doesn't produce enough, basically, and that's why she finds it really hard to fall asleep.
Yeah. And I guess that, and again, once you've got that information, your genes don't really change. It's just managing.
But you can influence your genes. So your genes are the way they are for the rest of your life. But the good news and the exciting news really for nutritionists is that you can influence your genes. And the report shows you what you need to add to these particular pathway for them to function better. So we call them cofactors. So for example, someone who's struggling to sleep would need to have a good amount of protein in their diet. And when we made that change with our daughter, because she's not really eating a huge amount of meat, she doesn't really enjoy it that much, or fish, but if we make a point of, making sure that she has some kind of protein, it's usually at snack time after school that I'll give it to her because she's really hungry. So she'll eat more easily than at dinner time when she's tired. She just can't be bothered. she doesn't really like food. So sometimes I have to feed her because she's just too tired and she'd rather miss the food, but then she'll wake up in the night because she hasn't eaten enough. So
Yeah.
that report just shows you, all these different things you need. It's really fascinating.
I guess that's where smoothies and things like that come into play. So, I know what my daughter used to get, like she'd be floppy on the sofa and be like, oh my God, she needs, you need to eat. Oh, can't even lift their heads off the sofa. So
Exactly.
that one.
Yeah. Yeah. So as a parent, it's like, okay, my child needs something. They shouldn't be asleep in the afternoon because otherwise it will affect their sleep later on, right? In the night.
Yeah.
So it's like, what do they need? It's really easy for them to consume. That is tasty. For me, that's really important, to give them tasty food. So they enjoy it, even if their food is restricted. I know my daughter's food is quite restricted, but what she eats, she actually enjoys it. And for me, it's like when she goes, oh, this is nice, mummy. I make like a chicken soup. It's just like she'll just have the broth from it. She doesn't want any speck of vegetable in it, but she'll have the broth and then we cook some pasta. We put that in there. And the number of times she'll say to me, Mommy, can I have a pasta soup? And I know what it is. And it's so good for her. Chicken soup. I mean, there's nothing better than that.
Yeah. I mean, I guess there's only one other question I tend to ask people that come on the podcast is around what does shameless mean to you? Are you living a shameless life now? Now you have all the tools available to you to buck the shame bus, if you like.
Yeah, I mean it's a tricky question actually, and also I think it's work in progress, right? We are always evolving, we're always learning. So I'm sure there will be episodes where I'm like, oops, sorry, did I really do this? Oh well, I've learned from it, moving on. I'm really open, I'm really transparent, and it's especially with days of social media where everything needs to look perfect and staged and all that. I think it doesn't help people because it makes them actually feel like, I can't achieve this. This is not real, right? To actually admit that there will be good days and there will be bad days, I think shame will be there at some point in when, I don't know, but it's work in progress. That's my view, really. So then you stay open to learning, and learning from others. And life is not easy. And like you said right at the beginning, we are in this kind of generation where we feel like we need to do everything. And gosh, it's hard. And, anyone who's got it all sussed out.
Yeah. Can they ring up?
I want to know what's behind it.
Yeah. And I think, I love the fact that you say that it's work in progress. It really is. And I think new levels of shame arrive for us to move through. But I think as we get older, we become more aware of those triggers, don't we? And I think, like you said, it was your personal journey that put you on this path, to heal the gut, to move through a shameful kind of condition, if you like. And people don't like to talk about I think there was a TV show, a TV star called Gillian McKeith who used to talk about poo on the television, and it was made the front page news. It was like, it's so shameful to talk about your toilet, but it's like, do you know what? Everyone does it.
Totally. And I spoke to a teenager this week, and I'm helping her she's got acne, very common condition, right? But she's quite ashamed actually of how she looks right now. And so her mum got in touch and said, can you help her? We've tried so many things. We don't know what else to try. And so we've been having really open conversation, the two of us, with her. And she feels like, we talked about cycles because I really feel that her acne is linked to hormonal, fluctuations. And I said to her, you can talk to me. It's okay, to tell me about your cycles and how, are they regular? Are they, what is happening? How do you feel? And it was hard for her to open up. And those are the kind of conversations we need to have. It's okay to talk about these things because that's who we are. That's how we work. That's how we function. And if something is not working well, it's going to affect us and the rest of our family as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, talking about it in the first place. I mean, I remember going to the doctor and feeling massive shame around kind of having issues with my cycle or whatever. And, they give you a questionnaire and it's very blunt and it's very are you going to kill yourself? And it's like, well, no, not today, but like sometimes I feel like it's the end of the world. But that it's I think that's the other thing, like working with individuals like yourself who are more on the holistic side. It's a lovely balance with the NHS, the doctors, etc. It's like it's a great complementary medicine. I think that opening people's eyes up to considering coming to someone like you to help with those issues that they don't feel comfortable enough about talking to their doctors about, perhaps they may feel better talking to someone like you.
Absolutely. And that's the key word. It's complementary. It's not alternative. It's not one or the other. We need both. There is a place for both. And nutritional therapy can help with so many conditions. And the sooner people, look into it, the easier it gets to address issues. At the moment, I get people who've had issues for 20 years. So imagine how long it takes to unpack all of that, years and years and years of anxiety or gut issues, or, sooner, you start, easier it gets. And another area, which is worth encouraging people to talk about is the whole thing around bloating and what's behind that. And very often there's gynecological issues that women and girls are too ashamed to talk about, when actually it could hide severe conditions. So I really encourage everyone to talk to a nutritional therapist, because we can start the investigation, and then if we need to pass it on to the medical, that's done medical staff, then we can refer. That's what we do. But yeah, having this conversation.
Wow, I could talk to you all day, and I say this every time. I love having these conversations, but I'm so grateful for you joining me on today on the Shameless Stories podcast. How can people find you?
So thank you for having me today. People can find my website, which is Savoir Faire. So Savoir, Savoir, and then Faire with a Y, Fayre. That's a little twist of my French background here. And I'm on Instagram at savoir-faire_nutrition, and I'm also on Facebook, Savoir Faire. And I have a lovely Facebook group called Your Hormone Harmony, which is all about basically me sharing tips on how to manage PMS and hormonal issues. So yeah, delighted to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming on, and I'll put all the information in the show notes, and come on over to the Facebook group where we all need to be there. Thank you again for joining me, and I will be back soon with another episode of Shameless Stories.
Thank you.